In 2016, Americans were shocked to learn children in Flint, Michigan had been exposed to lead through their drinking water. Their municipal government had failed to provide the basic human right of clean, safe drinking water because of short-sightedness and penny pinching. The crisis led to a series of changes at the federal level. There was legislation demanding or requiring municipalities replace lead service lines, and there was money, millions of dollars set aside for lead service line replacement. The Flint water crisis catapulted lead into the national spotlight. But here in Buffalo, New York, we have a crisis of our own. And in fact, even at the height of Flint's water crisis, Buffalo's rate of lead poisoning is 4 times that of Flint. And yet, we don't think of it as a crisis. It's background noise against the backdrop of Buffalo's poverty, segregation, and deindustrialization.
I was diagnosed with lead at the age of 3, so it was about like 27 years ago. In the east side of Buffalo, I was eating paint chips in the windowsills of the apartment. And I don't remember much, but my mom tells me that I was hospitalized for like a week or a week and a half. We were also moved to she called it like a lead safe house when it happened. They moved us to a temporary apartment so that, I wouldn't be around that lead anymore. And I don't remember much about it, but I know that like during growing up, like I have had some like social, emotional issues growing up, maybe some memory problems due to my exposure, but my mom was very hands-on with me as a young child, so she worked with me with my my learning and emotional problems.
AJ was born prematurely. He was actually born 2 months early. And lots of complications when he was born, spent a few weeks in the NICU. Once he hit about 1, he was a pretty normal, active child. We moved a couple times, and when AJ was 3, we landed over on Gorton Street. And just before his 4th birthday, we took him into a normal physical visit. And the nurse was like, oh, well, we need to do a finger prick for lead poisoning here. Wash his hands, went through all the steps. She came back, she did the finger prick, and she comes into the room. She's like, have your son ever been exposed to lead? We called the landlord immediately. He dismissed everything, ignored me. And then calling anybody and everybody, calling anybody in New York State, every department I could think of, finally getting into the health department. It was a long 4-month process of even figuring out where the lead was coming from, contacting the water authority, a lot of anxiety, a lot of nerves, a lot of back and forth to the doctors. AJ had no clue what was going on. Every 3 months, I had to take him and hold him down and listen to him scream, telling me, Mommy, no. He didn't want the needle in his arm.
When children are poisoned, both at the level of the child and the family, and it causes immeasurable suffering to their families and to themselves. Families have to go to the doctor's office. They need to understand where the source of lead was. They need to deal with their child's nutrition to try to lower those levels. And of course, there are the long-term effects of lead that the family has to deal with for years, if not decades.
His name is Kai Robertson. He got high levels of lead. He's 3 years old. He's a smart boy. So, yeah, I'm just here to tell my story about him. By 2, I know they say kids talk when they, get ready on their own, but he wasn't showing no signs of talking, no sentences, no words, just mom, dad, no, and stop. That's it. He was at a 76.
And what are his levels now?
They came down to an 18. When I learned that he had high levels, they told me that he had to be hospitalized. It was like a traumatic scary moment for me because you see your baby there with tubes in his mouth and his nose, medicine every hour.
Families face behavioral issues, not understanding their child can't communicate their emotions because they can't hear or they can't talk. And that child being frustrated, and then now the Head Start or the schools are saying that they have behavioral when it's really just, they can't communicate their emotions. ADHD, where a child can't focus in school, so they can't learn. And that's social, emotional. So maybe I might come across a child that may cry a lot, and, a parent might not understand why that child may be crying, but it's just the effects of lead.
I do believe it stunted him in some ways. He can't sing his ABCs. He can count-ish. He tries. So his learning, it seems like what he needs to learn versus what he wants to learn has been hard. It's hard for him to sit still. It's hard for him to concentrate. He constantly has to be moving, constantly has to be on the go. So trying to get him to sit back and relax. There's days he gets up at 7 o'clock in the morning, doesn't go to bed until 1 o'clock in the morning. He just goes. So much energy. And I don't believe he's exactly where he needs to be, but I believe one day he will get to where he needs to be.
In Buffalo, we have tens of thousands of lead service lines, but luckily our corrosion control system works quite well and our drinking water is largely safe. The problem in Buffalo is paint. We have tens of thousands of homes that are slathered and coated in lead-based paint. That lead-based paint deteriorates over time, causing dust and chips, which then gets into children's mouths.
When we first started doing this work, we were just convening anybody who we thought had an interest in preventing lead poisoning. It was the city, it was the county, it was physicians, it was people from across the community, housing advocates, and we convened them all together, and we were kind of a motley crew. It was a coalition of interested people. By the time we got to 2018, we had released this report which looked at type and incidences of lead poisoning. And what we clearly saw there was that children were getting lead poison in rental units, single and double rental units.
As we worked more with the medical community and with pediatricians this year, we heard from them again how much of the lead poisoning is coming out of rental housing. So the Western New York Lead Poisoning Prevention Center told us virtually all of their patients with elevated lead levels, including children with extreme lead levels that require hospitalization and chelation treatment, live in rental housing. We heard from Jericho Road Community Health Center that serves many refugee and immigrant families in Buffalo that, again, the vast majority of their children with lead poisoning are coming out of rental housing.
Now everybody tells you, oh, let's just move, just move, just move. Well, it's not that simple. Landlords now require you to have $20 per application. You can go on to Zillow, you can buy the Zillow subscription and then read through most of those posts and does not accept Zillow application, must pay for additional application. You're out hundreds of dollars before you can even get the money together to get a security deposit. And most of the landlords won't accept downtown's security agreement or anything like that. They really do make it hard for anybody who's low income in the city to have a decent place to live. Because if you're low income, they really don't care.
For many years, we had dozens of partners coming together calling for the city to adopt proactive rental inspections and make rental housing more lead safe. In 2020, our partnership was really happy when the city adopted that policy. But 4 years later, in 2024, we could see that they weren't doing as many inspections as they needed to get the job done. So for years, we've had these frontline direct service partners coming to us saying, it is not getting any easier. It's still very difficult to find a unit that is affordable, that is lead safe. And so we saw over many years that not enough repairs were getting made and that the city was not doing enough inspections to make sure renters have safe housing stock when they go out to find a new place to live.
One thing we did is on Boots on the Ground, we were like door knocking. We thought that it was important that people need to know about this. Like we was face to face with people because nobody, like I said, nobody knows about PRI, proactive renters inspection. Like this was something that like on the base level, nobody didn't know. We also did base level like workshops, education. We thought that we would do a fun way of getting to having people learn about PRI. So we did a PRI Jeopardy. And so we thought that we would make it fun because one, PRI or any type of like housing or climate thing can be hard or hard to understand. So we're like, okay, let's make it fun and easy for you to understand because this is somewhat a complicated law. So come and join, let's play some Jeopardy and let's learn about PRI. With that too, we also held rallies. We got people to come out and come to City Hall to be like, hey, this is PRI, get some press around it too. And then we also did a sign-on letter with 39 organizations sign on to say like this is a problem. They need to sign on to PRI. They need to like actually implement and fund PRI.
About 40 of our partner organizations came together and called on the city of Buffalo to ramp up the progress, hire more inspectors, set a schedule to tell the community how are we going to get through the 36,000 rental units that are the highest risk for lead poisoning and make sure that they're safe for renters. We had a whole community come together and make this ask in February, and we kept up the call throughout the city's season of negotiating its new budget. Thankfully, when the city adopted its new budget, they included new funding to add 6 or 7 inspectors to the proactive rental inspections team, and they made a renewed commitment to make sure this important program gets done.
If you want to fix lead poisoning once and for all, you have to do it at scale. We did a lot of house painting, and we paid people to paint houses, and we trained people in lead-safe work practices, and that's all really nice, but that is for that family in that point in time. If you really want to address a city full of children who are at risk of lead poisoning, you have to do it in a way that addresses the systems. And given our rental stock, it has to be directed to those rental units. Where it has worked in other cities, it's worked because of those rental inspections. And I do believe this will work. We have to bring down our lead poisoning rates. We just have to. It's inexcusable.
Currently, we're in my house on Niagara Street. I actually received the Erie County Lead Grant many years ago. They replaced probably about 30 windows and doors. I was actually over budget, but I'm resourceful and I made it work. Lead poisoning is a risk to our children. It's a risk to me as a landlord myself, and it's just not something that people should have to deal with. Why not reduce the liability, improve your home, keep quality tenants in place, and make the house lead safe? It's just a win-win-win.
And the reality is there are far too many projects out there, whether they're done by a contractor, whether they're done by handymen or DIY, where people just don't really understand the degree to which they need to use lead-safe work practices and the importance of doing that so they don't leave the contamination behind. If you're not using lead-safe work practices, you're likely creating a situation that's probably worse than the way it was. Normal vacuums blow out a fair percentage of the dust that they pick up, and we're talking about dust that's very fine. It's also very heavy, okay? So unless we're using the specialized equipment and appropriate cleaning procedures, specialized cleaning procedures that you learn by attending the training, you're gonna end up creating a situation where you think it's clean, but in fact it's not. Lead is microscopic, and these very small concentrations can cause significant health impacts.
So given how complex and long-standing this issue is, we know that there's not a single silver bullet solution to it, so we need to mount all kinds of efforts to address it. So yes, we're hopeful that the legislation that we aspire to pass in Albany does put a dent in it all, but we know it's going to be more than that. We know that we need to provide programs and resources for homeowners that are looking to address the issues in their homes. We need to provide more funding for municipalities so they can double up their efforts on rental inspections. We need to sort of think of this from every angle possible. So that's more money for health services. That's more money for direct incentives for people that are acquiring homes so that they can address it before they move in. There's all kinds of approaches we need to take, and that's going to take government leading, but it's also going to take people that are in the trenches on this conversation to continue to bring to our attention the things that they're seeing, and it's on us to find the resources to make it happen.
We know what we need to do. We just need the resources to do it. And that boils down to funding, whether that's to train more folks to do the work, provide them with the supplies, the materials, the equipment to do the work, or to just incentivize it so property owners get involved. So we know what to do. You know, we've got decades of experience and research to draw on. We just need the support to make it happen. It's meaningful to me because I get out and I'm able to help folks deal with what is likely the worst environmental hazard that's ever impacted mankind. Buffalo has one of the highest rates of lead poisoning in not only in New York State, but in the country. And it's about time we got around to doing things around here, and I think this is the opportunity.
One thing that we need to do that is to have a strong coalition that adds our voices to the policy debate. It's been so useful over the last year to hear directly from educators that work in early intervention, to hear from tenants advocates that have helped families move when they have lead, to hear from doctors and physicians about what they've seen in many years of family practice. When we have the resources to bring all those people together and speak up to decision makers with one voice, it means that we're going to see a different set of policy decisions that prioritizes lead, prioritizes children and their full potential.
Why spend the money on this issue? If you don't spend it now, you'll spend significantly more later. A lot of people in prison had elevated lead levels when they were children. A lot of people in school who have behavioral issues have elevated lead counts. What might costing $15,000 or $10,000 for a house could save society hundreds of thousands of dollars per individual later on. Investing in healthy homes and lead safety is a lead-safe child, a happy child, a healthier child, a child that's more likely to be a productive member of society, a child that's less likely to cost society more in the long run, and a child and a family that's going to be better off. Racism, lead poisoning, redlining, they all line up together, and an investment today is an investment in saying we want everybody, no matter the background, no matter the race, no matter the religion, to live in safe, affordable housing.
If we had more resources in Buffalo, we would be able to renovate all the houses where there is no lead at all. In the houses, no child could be exposed, even down to the water pipes. That would be the most ideal thing to stop lead spreading in Buffalo, New York. So if we had a lead-free city, some benefits would be we will have a healthier community, so less diseases or mental health issues, even down to violence, because a lot of those mental health issues can cause, violence and trauma and stress in homes. And we'll just have like a healthier, happier community in Buffalo, New York, for minorities and immigrants who live in those areas that have those high lead exposures.